Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today's episode is the Forbidden Knowledge News panel, and we're going to be talking a little bit about ways we heal ourselves. And we have, of course, Frankie Fearless is here, Stephen Stathis from BG Cast, Chris Mathieu from Forbidden Knowledge News, and also Jennifer Halcame. So let's do a little go round and everybody can introduce themselves to the audience for those who are not familiar with us. Do you want to start us off, Frank?
Sure. My name is Frank Castle, host of Fearless on YouTube. You can check us out on Fearless Tribe. I'm also a musician, Sons of the Sun Music. Check it out. And thank you for allowing me to be part of this panel. And everyone prepare for the frequency because we're always deep into the pool.
Awesome. Awesome. Jennifer, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jennifer Halcome. I'm a Reiki master teacher, life coach, and whatever ails you kind of person. You can get a hold of me on Facebook at Jennifer Halcome.
And Chris, how are you?
Hello, everyone. I am Chris Mathieu, host and producer for Forbidden Knowledge News, the Forbidden documentary series. Find us at forbiddenknowledge.news, all podcast platforms, and you can watch our first film, Forbidden documentary called Louisiana, right now on Tubi.
Wonderful. And Stephen, last but not least.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Steven of BG Cast. I am a part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. And my podcast is about the Great Awakening and everything that entails, from diving deep into the esoteric, from new discoveries in quantum physics involving consciousness, from conspiracies, you name it, we discuss it. And thank you for having me here, Karen.
Oh, my pleasure. I really, really look forward every month to us getting together, discussing all kinds of topics, the weird and the wonderful. And in case I didn't make it clear, we're all part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and you can find all of our shows and all of the audio podcasts on forbiddenknowledge.news. And of course, I'll have links to everything in the description below the show. So, today we're going to talk about how I heal myself. And I know there is an endless list of ways that we can heal ourselves. And some people might still be struggling with the New Year's resolutions. I know I am a little bit. And I thought it would be great to encourage each other and the audience with some of the things that we do to heal ourselves. Frank, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So, as an ayahuasca shaman, it's an obvious one for me. Started with ayahuasca, didn't even know I needed healing, but I needed physical healing from an actual injury. And that helped me down a path where it simplified things. Shower water, you might have to filter it. Drink filtered water. Then you clear up the haze of what's going on, getting off prescription medications, meditation and grounding. And it took me through the process, step by step, until I was able to pick up on everything that was happening and then present myself in the best possible way in the highest frequencies I can.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Jennifer, what do you do to heal yourself?
The first thing I start with is meditation and checking in with how it is I feel about anything, what's going on, the environment, whatever. I do a lot of things like, um, rice packs and for, winter and baths and uh, all sorts of fun tricks you can do to help yourself feel better. Um, as far as like your mood, because I know a lot of people out there get the winter blues. Um, it helps to move, even if you can't go outside and do outside things. Get a stationary bike or do jazzercise with your TV, whatever it is that makes you happy. Just move, and it helps a lot more than people think. Um, And on top of that, I do grounding every day to, you know, center myself and to let go of any free radicals that may be going on and that kind of thing. So that's my basic healing process for these days.
Wonderful. Chris, what do you like to do?
Oh, it's still an ongoing, evolving process for me. It started for me with changing my diet. The meditation and spiritual practices didn't come until later. Early on, also stopping prescription drugs, constantly adjusting the diet. And then I discovered meditation, which led to psychedelics, which led to some very hard realizations and tough work. And it led to working on, trying to love myself, more self love, getting into better relationships, and which ultimately led to discovering more about my own creative abilities, things that I have to offer. And it's still an evolving process, more layers to uncover. With each layer that gets healed, there's something else that can be made better. And as well as the diet thing, that's constantly evolving. We have to constantly be navigating our what we're offered from our food industry and in the grocery stores and trying to find the best foods. So it's a process. And I think that right now, this is something that's really sweeping over a lot of people across the planet, is small aspects of making their own lives better, whether they realize it or not. I see a lot more people starting to do things that are making their own lives better and more beneficial. And that's what I am constantly doing every day is, changing up things and evolving and going with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, what do you do to heal yourself?
Well, it's really cool because I heard a little bit of what I do coming from everybody here, Frank, Jen, and Chris. So, how it all began for me was the diet. That I think that's a huge thing for people back in 2008 when I first woke up. One of my biggest things was like, because I had struggled with my weight most of my life. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I want to do this the right way. I'm done with these, bouncing back and forth. I'm done with the crash dieting. So as I cleaned up my diet, by default, my frequency started to increase.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to clean out your body of these toxins, these impurities, and all of these pharmaceutical medications, all of these preservatives, by default, your frequency starts to lift and you start to kind of see things in a different light. And of course, I've had my fair share of entheogenic experiences that have helped with my healing. I have done my fair share of meditation. And like Chris, mine kind of evolved and was always going with the flow. And I've finally gotten to a place where I'm at right now where what's helping me heal right now is Kundalini Kriyas. Kriya Yoga is what's helping me heal. And as of now, this is going to be a mainstay in my healing process for the foreseeable future. I don't think I'm going to be dropping it anytime soon. I know I feel like a little bit of a spokesperson for Kundalini Yoga sometimes, but the amount of healing I've experienced from it in just a short, almost 2 years compared to the rest of my journey is very profound. So I am a little bit of a spokesperson for it because I think it works. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I also want to just take a moment to tell the audience and the algorithm that none of us are doctors. We are just speaking from our own experiences. And please don't, I recommend that nobody take anything we say as medical advice. You need to do your own research and you need to, when appropriate, consult with your own medical practitioner. So, after saying that, I have had to take a fairly radical departure from mainstream eating and ways of doing things. It just didn't work for me. And I had a huge weight problem all my adult life, actually, even in childhood. And my top weight was 320 pounds. And it was horribly debilitating for me. And I also ended up with all kinds of other issues, chronic pain, chronic fatigue. And this is nothing new to anybody. I'm sure many of you in the audience have also struggled with these things. And, I had tried every diet, I tried Weight Watchers and I tried everything and the cabbage soup diet and everything. But you know what? I don't know why, but nobody ever really told me, or maybe I just didn't figure it out, that as soon as I resumed my old way of eating, it would undo everything I had worked so hard towards. So I kept thinking, oh, I get my weight down. Oh, I'm a normal person now. I can go out and have a few drinks, a few appies, have a normal life, but it doesn't work for me. So I have been completely off all sweeteners and refined foods and processed foods now for many years, to the point where it doesn't bother me anymore. I also had to give up alcohol because, to me, my body doesn't seem to know the difference between sugar or flour or grains or even some legumes and beans and alcohol. It doesn't seem to recognize a difference. Everything just seems to turn into glucose in my bloodstream. I don't know why. And it seems to be very toxic for me. So I'm not saying everybody else out there needs to change and eat the way I eat, but I'm just saying that it really, really made such an incredible difference. And the other thing too is I'm not one to exercise for exercise sake. I don't know why. I have a really hard time with it. But what I really love is to go out and do what I call a walking meditation, where I'm outside breathing in the fresh air, hopefully getting some sun. I find it extremely therapeutic. And sometimes I combine that, like I said, with meditation, where I get in touch with my heart chakra or my heart's toroidal field, and I just start feeling feelings of love and gratitude and let that grow. And I have had amazing results with that. Another thing that I did a long time ago is I had to stop taking pharmaceutical drugs, because I got to tell you what happens for me, and I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. I go to the doctor and they give me drugs to manage the symptoms, but nobody wants to look at what causes my symptoms. And if I don't figure out what's causing my symptoms, how am I supposed to make it stop or get better? And so what I stopped doing was treating the symptoms. And I found a huge difference in my spirituality and in my spiritual capacity. So I'm not saying, please don't get me wrong, don't be, dumping out your prescription medicine because you heard this podcast. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying for me. So I've ended up with a very different kind of life, and some might view it as very restrictive, but in a way, it's given me tremendous freedom from pain, freedom to be able to sleep well, freedom to have a balanced mood, freedom to be able to self-soothe, freedom to get along better with my grown children and my neighbors. It's given me so much freedom. And then there's the whole spiritual realm that for me is quite lively. And that has improved so much. And it's really exciting to be able to, let's just say, cross over to other realms and dimensions that I didn't know was possible before. So I've said enough about me. I'll turn it back over to Frank. And I don't know where you guys want to go from here, but please do add anything you want to add. It's all good.
I found that psychedelics in small doses over a couple of days time, like vitamins, to have no psychedelic effect, work just as well as a heavy dose of psychedelics in one session. I was so thick with damage and trauma and overlays, like I was sitting in the center of the onion with no clue. I needed something to smash that in a little bit so I can start getting a grip back on myself again, which I had none. Zero spirituality, a ton of spirit, but no connection that way to having a dose of the connection, which then just allowed me to grow more healthy, grow out of the medications. You have to grow out of them. You can't just stop some medications. You just can't. There's other things now. There's many different ways and modalities that you can handle a lot of different things today. But it's your choice to take the steps necessary to heal yourself, because you have to be that important. You have to love yourself again. And when you start to find that, it begins to work in your favor, both for your health purposes and everything else spiritually.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, Jennifer, what are your words on the subject?
Um, my journey, my personal journey with the healing, started as far as my physical healing started back in 2005, when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And at the time, I knew always been a deeply spiritual person, but I had no clue about health in any way. And I very much didn't have a clue how my health was affecting my spiritual connection. And I think that's something that me and Stephen have talked about that before. It's something that's missed a lot in the spiritual communities. They don't even talk about it. Um, so for me, the journey started with detox, finding out everything around me that was toxic. And it was shocking, honestly. Started with the food, of course, and finding out how insidious the poisoning is in the environment, from food to water to ground to the paint in your house and the carpet on your floors to you name it. And it was just kind of an insane journey that I went in this big circle and, figured out they were doing this on purpose. And so we have to very purposefully avoid those things. We have to do our research and find out what it is that is putting toxins into our system and just eliminate that. And when I did that, like with Karen, I was able to very much deepen that spiritual connection and open up to things that I just never noticed before. Something's there, but you don't really experience it until you're open to that. So that's where I started, and then I went on to my water. So water was a huge thing. Of course, everyone knows you don't drink tap water, right? Everyone knows this by now. Um, but what they don't tell you is that you find the toxins in spring water. It can very easily run through fluoride because it's naturally occurring. You don't know what all kind of minerals are in the particular spring waters. And so I ended up having to go down a kind of extreme route with water, and I started buying distilled water and then putting that on the a 432 disc to charge the water, and adding Celtic gray salt to it, so you have all your minerals. And it's done a wonderful job of just really allowing me to be open to the energies and my own energy, you know. Um, so yeah, I mean that's the beginning of my healing process, and I can say nowadays that I am no longer immunocompromised, and that has been confirmed by all my doctors, and I managed to stop this crazy autoimmune disease that everyone went, well, we don't know what it's going to do, and we don't know what causes it, and we don't know, and we don't know. And I said, well, you almost killed me with the prescriptions with the I don't knows. So we're not going, and I had to come off of, oh God, in 2009 it was 22 different medications they had me on for this, and it was killing me faster than any disease was. And so I went to my doctor and I said, "You're taking me off of everything, period. And we're going to see where that lands me." And for folks out there that are unaware, there is an actual beautiful branch of medicine that most people don't know about. And it's because your insurance is not going to cover it. And it's called functional medicine. And it uses no prescriptions, it uses all natural means to get to the root of the issue and fix that. Uh, and that's been a beautiful journey. So if you haven't heard of functional medicine, please Google it.
Mhm.
So I'm
Go ahead,
next, I
Chris.
assume. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I'm going to open a couple of doors for us to explore, and it does have a lot to do with self-healing. First is become utterly fascinated with how much our perspective forms our reality and the powers of the way we view things and the way we feel about things and where we're at mentally and emotionally, how much this can manifest things and change our reality in very profound ways. And I've noticed amazing changes with my health, even when sicknesses come up, colds, things that come up in everyone's lives, but the way I view them has changed, and the way I view disease in general and the way I view how the body reacts to sickness, all of those things has seemingly had an amazing effect on my immune system and health overall, and with the frequency that I get sick. So that's a fascinating aspect, and to the extent that we are able to heal ourselves. I had a guest on the other day, Tim Kelly, who he wrote some amazing literature about self-healing and some modalities. He claims that he's even regrowing some of his teeth right now with some of the healing modalities that he's using. I highly recommend everyone go listen to that interview with Tim Kelly that I just did. It's the most recent interview on Forbidden Knowledge News. He's got some great information in there about health in general, but regeneration abilities for the human body, that is utterly fascinating. And I think as time goes on and as the collective awakens more, we're going to start to discover these amazing regenerative abilities that we can do as humans just from our perspective and the way we view things and the way we think about things and our consciousness abilities. I think we can do profound things with our consciousness, up into including healing ourselves in very profound ways.
Yeah, totally, totally. Wonderful. Stephen, I have a feeling you're going to tell us more about Kundalini yoga. Go
Well,
for it.
I'm gonna give a little bit of a backstory because kind of everybody did too. So, let's see. I was 20 years old. I just got done kicking a very vicious opioid addiction. I also just got done with doing about a year in prison at this point for the mistakes I made when I was young and I was a kid. And I mean, from an emotional standpoint, I grew up in a very abusive family. It was very abusive. When you have a lot of people who are supposed to love you and be there for you and take care of you, not do that and do the exact opposite, it's very, very trying. It can really wear down on the spirit. It can. So, I mean, essentially, where it all kind of started was, kind of touching on the food like Jen did. When I started my health journey back when I was 20, and I said, you know what, I've had it. I want to do this the right way. I'm done doing it the wrong way. We're going to find out how to do it the right way. And this is how it kind of started to open the door for me because I'm researching and I'm like looking at all of this stuff. And I'm like, man, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. How come all of the healthy food that you're supposed to be eating, that they tell you is good for you, is hella expensive, and not a lot of people can afford it, especially organic food. We look at the organic label on things. I mean, luckily, fortunately enough, here in Colorado, the price difference isn't as big as it is in other places when it comes to organic food. But, and then all of the crap food that you're not supposed to be eating that has all of these chemicals in it, super cheap. You can go to the store and get a honey bun for what, 99 cents. And you know, when you look at that honey bun, it's just packed sugar. It's packed sugar and carbs and fat. So I mean, it seemed kind of counterproductive, you know, to be healthy for me at that point in time. And so that's where I first started to learn about the fluoride, the preservatives in the food. And if there's anything I would say to anybody to first start off with doing is cleaning out your body, because there is an as above, so below with the physical and spiritual body, with your physical and subtle bodies. They are intertwined. They work together on a level in unison and with each other. So the minute you start taking care of your physical body and you start getting rid of all of these toxins, the fluoride, the prescription medications in the tap water, the atrazine in the tap water that's turning all the frogs gay, all of that kind of stuff as well. As soon as you start doing that, you're going to start to notice like, wow, I feel profoundly different. You know, so the number one thing I could tell a lot of people to start off with that's going to catalyze both your physical health evolution and your spiritual health evolution is to start taking care of your body. Number one. The second thing, you know, Chris kind of brought up perspective, you know, and perception of certain things. And that's why if we look at ancient Vedic medicine, okay, and a lot of the ancient Vedic science that has existed for many millennia, the first thing to having good health and healing yourself is always having a positive mindset. Because if you have a positive mindset, what happens when we get stressed out? What happens when we get angry? Our body releases stress hormones. Our body releases cortisol, all of this stuff. And what happens is when your body's in that stress state, it can't fight off or it can't handle anything that's being thrown at it when you're walking around in this consistently stressed out state or in a state of mesmerized terror, like a lot of the collective happens to be walking around in this state at this point in time. So positive mindset for sure, and your perspective on this existence and this reality are going to be in key and integral to your healing as well. When it comes down to the emotional and the spiritual healing as well, me and Frank have a lot in common. I know not everybody is going to resonate with what I'm about to say, but you gotta just dive in. You gotta just hold your nose. You gotta just strap your pants on. You gotta freaking throw your floaty on, and you just gotta dive into the Marianas Trench. That's kind of, you know, the way that I went about it too. And I mean, there's many different modalities for the emotional side and the spiritual side of healing as well. I mean, one of the ones I can give you is the flame meditation that I do quite frequently. Now, this one's a little bit intense. If start small with this one before you start diving deep, because this is really good at helping you release and integrate a lot of these traumas and to transmute their energy into a higher purpose to help create your best self and your best existence. And what you do is you sit there, you can pick a mantra like I do, or you can do it in just straight silent meditation, and you envision yourself sitting in a fire. And then you go deep within and you go deep, deep down to the very first time something affected you, something hurt you, or you did something to somebody else, and you relive that in that moment in the fire. And you feel those emotions. You hear the words that were said. You take it all in, and then you release it into the fire. After you feel it and you experience it that one last time, because what this is this is a form of closure for yourself. This is a form of helping you look through these instances that have occurred to you in your life that have, whether they have caused you trauma, whether they have caused you damage, emotional issues. And this is your time to cast it into the fire. So mind you, you might have to do this a few times. I do this 3 times a week. I sit down and I do this because there are still things that come up. I'll get to a point where I'm like, man, like I've been releasing all of this stuff into the fire. I feel great. And then I'll sit down and then something will just come out of the back and be like, oh yeah, Steve, you thought it was all done, but look at this, look at what's right here. So again, I have to kind of like relive that and go through it. That's one way too. And the other kind of method that I use right now too to help with my emotional side of things and the spiritual is I do at work shadow work. And what does it mean, like at work shadow work or at work internal work? I work a 9 to 5, so like, I have to go to work, but I'm consistently analyzing my thoughts. I'm consistently analyzing why I feel about things, the way I feel about things. And if something comes up that, makes me feel a certain way, even if I can't do it at that moment in time, I'll take a note. But then when I get a moment to myself, I'll ask myself, why did that make me feel that way? What about me and what I need to work on has been brought to the surface in this instance? Because one of the biggest things, we are the source of 99% of everything when we look down to it. All of these instances that occur, the way we react to things, we are that source, the choices we make. And that's why I'm a big believer, and I say this, that our intentions, our thoughts, our actions, our habits are like the hammer and the chisel that we carve our reality and we create our existence out of these. So that's kind of what I do for like the emotional and spiritual healing aspect of it as well. But I'm going to tell you what, man, the best thing, like I said, I'll digress and I'll leave it at this, is to dive in because, I know how it feels. And I was talking about Frank with this on a show the other night. When you open up that subconscious closet of skeletons and you're like looking in there and you're like, holy crap. And then you look up and then this ceiling's 100 feet high and this closet's packed full of skeletons, man. And it gets intimidating. You're looking at this, you're like, holy shit, like, this is a lot of stuff I got to clean out, but the best thing you can do, like I said, is just hold your nose, put on your floaty, strap up your big boy pants, and dive into the skeletons, man. Immerse yourself in it because this is the way, at least in my eyes and in my experience, that's going to get you to where you want to be as far as your healing goes, both on the physical and spiritual levels.
Very good. All good stuff from all of you and very, very helpful. I want to give you guys a little experience I had, and I am not recommending this for anybody else. It's just I want to share what happened for me. So this is about 2011, quite a while ago now. And I had some big lumps under one of my arms. And I went to the doctor and she sent me for tests. And then she called me in the office and she just started going nuts, saying, oh, we have to get you in for surgery and we have to get you in for chemotherapy and we have to get you in for radiation therapy. And I said, stop, you're scaring the hell out of me. And she says, well, I'm not trying to scare you, but she says, you need treatment right away. And I says, well, maybe my glands are just sick. She says, no, Karen, we're positive that you have cancer and we want to get on this right away. So I let her make an appointment for me to see a surgeon, which took 3 months. And it would have taken a lot longer before I'd gotten into chemotherapy or radiation, like the Canadian healthcare system. Everyone thinks it's great. It is not. It sucks. People die waiting for treatment all the time here. But anyway, so I left there and I went, screw her. She can't tell me whether I'm going to live or die. It's ridiculous. So I never went back. And I went for long walks and I talked to Source. And I said, hey, this is between you and me, whether I die or whether I live. This has nothing to do with that doctor. And I said, I'll make you a deal. Why don't I just float it out there like Schrodinger's cat? I have cancer and I don't have cancer, and I'm somewhere in between. And I will trust what's going on with my body, and I will trust what your will is for me being here. And I'll just take really good care of myself. Well, this sounds a lot easier than it is because in Canada, if you have cancer, you get a lot of attention. Oh my God, you get all these people going, oh my God, you've got cancer, you poor thing. Here, come on over to our house for dinner. And there'd be free rides places, and there'd be all kinds of agencies that are geared up to support. Cancer's big business here in Canada, big business. You wouldn't believe the amount of high-rise buildings devoted to cancer. Everything's all about cancer in Canada. And I had to not participate. I had to not tell anybody about my diagnosis or my doctor visit. I had to pretend I was a well person. I had to resist that urge to have all these people fussing over me. Oh my God, how much attention would I get? Now, I'm not putting anybody else on the spot. You know, what you do with your body and your diagnosis is totally up to you. But I just never for a minute entertained the idea that the doctor was right. I didn't give the doctor power over me, and I didn't give the diagnosis power over me. Long story short, 3 months later, I went to see the surgeon. He says, I can't understand it. He says, you got no symptoms. I says, I know, they're all gone. He says, what did you do? I says, I just took really good care of myself and put my faith in God, basically. He says, I can't explain it, Karen, but you have zero symptoms. There's no need to do surgery on you. There's no need for you to have any medical intervention. So I walked away from there going, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I can't explain it. Maybe I never had cancer to start with, guys. Maybe I didn't. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I had a big miraculous cure, but I had a big miraculous cure. And so, like I said, I don't want to judge anybody else for the treatment that they take. It's just that I have learned kind of the hard way that the people in positions in power do not always get it right. And there's a lot of money tied into all kinds of things like sickness. And I resisted the urge to get sucked into it. So it was a really important lesson for me. And this gets back to what you've all said about your perspective and your attitudes and the way you think about things. And, you know, even if I had had cancer and was going to die again, that's my choice. It's my choice what happens to my body and how I want to deal with it, right? And that's between God and me. That's not between the medical industry. And I just refused to give myself over. So I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm not trying to be a bad influence on anybody. I'm not saying don't listen to the doctor or don't take your meds. All I'm saying is this is what happened for me. And I have never had a major illness since that time. My life has just been getting better and better. I mean, I've had the odd cold. I actually haven't even had a cold since winter of 2019. I don't know why. So I'm just saying. So it's just something to think about. Just something to think about how we frame a situation. Our attitudes around a situation have a lot, I think, to do with the outcome. So I'll just shut up now, turn it over to Frank. And yeah, that's it. Transdimensional, meet the new neighbors. Check out my new book available from Amazon bookstores worldwide and read the stunning details about ET diversity and culture, along with their advanced ways of living and expressing spirituality, which is in no way like anything imagined here on Earth. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors introduces you to many different ET beings, the healing pods, the interior of the big ship, my orientation process, cultural events, and off-world mating practices. When I tucked myself into bed for the night back in 2014, I had no idea that I would be transported to the big ship, meet many different extraterrestrial races of beings, become well acquainted with their culture, and visit numerous interesting worlds. While away, I learned a great deal about the big ship, intergalactic and transdimensional travel, intergalactic planetary research, and the various options for resettlement. My true life adventures continued night after night, and I had never experienced anything like this before. The first few times that I awoke back at home, I convinced myself that it had all been some kind of a fantastic dream. But while away, I was eating, sleeping, learning, and visiting, all the while experiencing what I perceived as days, weeks, and months. I am so happy to present you with my true nonfiction account of my weird little life and the more important messages from beyond our realm that I have been tasked to share with all of you. It is my hope and sincere desire that I will inspire you to acknowledge your own transdimensional abilities and experiences so that together we can become the change we wish to see in our world. Paperback and Kindle editions are now available at all Amazon bookstores. Go to the Amazon website, select the bookstore or Kindle store, and enter Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors by Karen Holton. The Audible version is coming out soon.
This is so amazing that we can share all this information, and then it's up to the individual listener to walk the path that they walk on. And, you know, willingly you report back your findings from your path, because everyone has a piece of the puzzle. But now I'm going to go deep end into it. So we take a path, we build a base frame for our health and then mental health, and we're whipping it around through everyone's stuff. When that occurs, your awareness becomes more. You heal trauma, you free yourself of the density where it collapsed all of this trauma in you from lifetimes, by the way. Then you uncurl it out, whether it's Kundalini yoga or any other modality. What ayahuasca would be purging into the bucket. So you do your cleanse, your heavy metal detoxes, you rise above where you were, and you're aware of that. And you look back and you notice that everyone's sick, but they're being programmed. And from the level you're watching now, you can see the programming. See, the programming is also part of the sickness. It's a big part of it. We've been programmed to think a certain way, to act a certain way, to think it's cool to do something like this, or not cool to say the truth, or whatever. When you go up and you're aware of this now you have a responsibility to it, because you create your own reality. So it's you doing to you. It's not anyone else doing to you. And you realize you have a choice, and that they want you to make all these choices, the system, so it can capture you in some kind of box and put a label on you of some kind. Oh, I'm this. Oh, poor me. Victim mentality. When you rise above the programming, you start to say, wait a second, I'm that powerful that they have this much distraction and programming in place just for little old me. And it's like, well, you got to have something for everyone. For little old me? And they're like, little old you is source. You are source energy. You create reality. You're a creator being. So I had to find all this out one after the other. So what gave me light is the fact that this was all there. Oh, so it's like a Batman movie where the Joker poisons everyone's stuff, but it only works after you use like 2 or 3 of the products together. So they can't really put the blame on anybody, and everybody just goes through and, oh, woe is me. So when you take that responsibility for yourself and you come out of the programming and you realize I can reprogram the program because it's really there to work for me, nothing more beautiful than to find out that the true holographic nature of reality works with the creator, not against the creator. Right? So that was a big healing for me, because knowing that allowed me to not be afraid to take steps to heal myself by getting off certain things and adding other things to my regimen, and not being afraid to be the first one on the block to do it, to be the example by being smart and responsible, not stupid. You get a little nervous to do certain things, like with ayahuasca or the psychedelics. You get a little nervous, right? But like Steven said, grab on, go to the deep end, and jump right in. When you look into the closet of skeletons, you got to think to yourself, I'm a light warrior. I'm made of light, having a human experience. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. You do what I say, and my profession is what, right? And you just rush into the closet and you take care of your business. That only elevates your health, mentally and physically. It will all implement change across the board.
Sorry, I didn't didn't realize I was still muted. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, Frank, because we can take ourselves in any situation, recognize that we're a spark of the divine, and that can center us and ground us and help us to think more rationally and put the right perspective and spin on things. That is really, really, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'd just
Chris.
like to add to that. I love what you said there, Frank, that you were the example for others to follow because as all of you know, during this awakening process, you can't force this information on anybody. You can't even tell anyone who's not ready to hear any of this stuff because it's just going to blow back on you in some way, and it's not going to be good for anyone. So, in my situation, especially, for example, with my family members. I learned very early that I couldn't tell them about any of this stuff. I couldn't tell them that they were poisoning themselves with the food, all the things that were going on. But they saw the things eventually that I was doing and that I wasn't blowing up like a blimp like the rest of my family, that I wasn't getting sick all the time like the rest of my family. And there were certain things that I was doing that I would mention to them every once in a while. Hey, I'm doing this and it's great for me. And eventually they would start to catch on. And now I have people in my family who were on the opposite side of the fence here now eating better and asking me about some of these things, reaching out to me. And that's a difficult thing in this community. It's for a lot of people to realize is we can't do anything for anyone else until they're ready to do it for themselves. And that's true for all of us. And another thing is it's very difficult, especially with loved ones, seeing their reliance on the medical industry and the medical system and pharmaceuticals and watching them poison themselves, watching them trust their doctors and the information coming out of there, knowing what they're doing, knowing how it's most likely that most of our biggest diseases were manufactured: AIDS, Ebola, uh, some of the recent COVIDy dovities, all these things that seem to be the worst diseases of all time were most likely created by our government to to create this illusion that there are these horrible things out there in nature that can just kill us at the drop of a hat. And we're starting to learn more and more the deception surrounding these things. But like Karen said earlier, there's also the medical hexing aspect. If anyone's even the smallest bit reliant on the medical system and they go to the doctor for something and they have to get a scan or a test, and what if it comes back like Karen said, and they say it's cancer, it's got to be cancer, you got to start these treatments right away. And what happens with most people when they start those treatments? They die faster than they would of anything that they could naturally have. And this is our medical system. And that's the most difficult thing to just try and explain to your loved ones, especially if they're not ready to hear it. So I'd say patience is another thing that we have to have with this, and leading by example. Like Frank said, that's a very important aspect if we're going to get across to anyone that we love.
Stephen, I'm sorry.
All right, all right. No, dude.
You
I mean,
guys are
Frank,
so good waiting your turns, and
Frank,
just jump in. It's all good.
Frank and Chris killed it, man. So like, I'm gonna bounce off of their points here for a little bit, but the number one thing I'm gonna say, based on what Chris was just touching on, Yes, we can't lead a horse to water and expect it to drink. It would be really cool if you could show that horse how like awesome this water is, how cold it is, how refreshing it is, and all of that. But again, like Frank said too, leading by example. Like I just kind of said, man, your actions, your intentions, your thoughts, your habits are that hammer and chisel that carve your reality into what it is going to be. So, when people see you with your hammer and chisel, having this magnificent time, you're in great health, you're smiling, you've got this shine on your face, you have no fear in your heart. Eventually, people are going to go, hey, what's this guy doing over here? I'm afraid of everything. I can't even leave my house. I mean, look at Howard Stern, for Christ's sakes, dude. Like, freaking, he's still boarded up in his freaking basement, afraid to leave over the coof and all of that kind of stuff. So, I mean, and the other thing too, you guys brought up is fear. And you guys both kind of like subconsciously or unintentionally brought this up, but no, it is. It's a programming. Illness is a fear programming, most certainly. You know how I said, most of our collective right now is walking around in a state of mesmerized terror. And you remember how when I said we're in this state of mesmerized terror, our body's releasing these stress hormones all of the time. Well, when you're subjecting yourself to that programming, that's what your body's doing all of the time. And what this does is it makes the terrain of your body more susceptible to gaining illness and being ill. One of the biggest things I want to say is the number one thing I would recommend, even though I'm not a doctor, this is just my opinion, stop believing the mainstream health industry at all. And this is just my opinion. I'm saying this because how do you expect to get real information and true information about being healthy from people who profit off of you being sick? That would be the number one thing to dish out of the window. I'm not saying don't go to your doctor, but use discernment with your doctor. Understand that when he gets pushy with you about certain things, it's because there's a big pharma rep who's holding a wad of cash just right behind him, waiting for him to either vaccinate you, waiting for him to prescribe you this certain medication. I mean, all in all, the best thing I can say as far as this goes is, have discernment with anything mainstream that's health related at this point in time. Chris was talking about the medical hexing. Absolutely. If your consciousness creates reality and you are relying on the medical system, if they tell you that you have something, your consciousness is going to create that issue within you. And yes, this is a very big thing that a lot of people, it flies under the radar. And, it's something we just have to keep our awareness of. The one thing Frank brought up that we talked about on his show on Monday. So when you gain this awareness in your health journey, all right, the universe and the divine is gonna start holding you accountable to that new awareness. And each time you increase that awareness level within yourself on your evolution, you're going to keep getting held accountable for that level of awareness as it increases. So you're going to notice that when you start doing this, if you in some way start to regress a little bit or in your thoughts based on, I understand people, there's life, we're dealing with this certain societal Maya system that keeps us all very spread thin, distracted from what's actually going on. But you'll notice you'll get a universal backhand. You'll get the divine backhand if you start to kind of regress in that, because that's the divine being like, dude, you reach this level of awareness, you're staying here. I'm holding you accountable. And as you increase, the more and more, the backhand is going to become more swift and it's going to become more instant. But like, this is your sign, this is what's showing you the way in your evolution and in your path. I think all in all, the best thing I can say at this point in time to kind of sum up both of what Chris was saying, both of what Frank was saying, it is about diving in. I know some people, now when I say dive in, I know some people need to get their feet wet first. I know some people, need to stay with their feet wet, then move up to the knees. And then once they're cool with their knees being wet, they move up to the waist and so forth, man. And that's okay. You can do that, but don't be hesitant about getting your feet in there in the first place. That's one of the biggest things that a lot of people do. They're like, oh, I'll start tomorrow. Oh, I'll start working on this tomorrow. Today is the day. You're not guaranteed tomorrow, my friend. And the past is already done with at this point. So the time is now. So I mean, yes, I mean right now it's a shame. That's the biggest thing I wanted to highlight right now is our health system is not about health. It's not. It's about money. It's about getting you to be a return customer, and it's tough to say that, as Chris was saying, when people are deep in the programming, showing them a way out of that's tough, is because one of the biggest things we've been taught to do in this society, and I think it's something we need to do away with, is having blind trust towards authoritative figures. And we see the after effects of the coof and the stabby and all that. And the other thing I wanted to bring up too, Karen, I as well have not been sick since 2019. And I think a lot of that has to do with perspective and perception. And so I'm going to leave it at that. And the other thing I want to say really quickly is don't fear nothing. Don't be afraid, guys. Like, and and I actually kind of lined out this equation because the fear is getting you sick. So having a heart and mind that is free of fear is actually freedom. And when your heart is as light as a feather, because if you travel down that tunnel, Mott's going to sit there and she's going to take your feather and she's going to weigh it against that heart. And if your heart is lighter than that feather, you're good to go. And that is why, if you have a free mind, you are at maximum source potential. When your mind is free, you are at maximum creator potential. So one of the biggest things I want to highlight too, that a lot of the illness that goes around is consciousness. It's the perspective, it's the frequency. And that's one of the biggest hacks I think I can hand down to anybody when it comes to staying well and healing themselves in both the physical and the spiritual sense.
Mm-hmm. So true. We're quickly running out of time, but we got time to do another go round. I wanted to bring up a couple of points. I live in central Alberta in Canada, and I don't know what it's like for you guys, but I have been in to see a doctor a couple of times over the last couple of years. And it doesn't matter who the doctor is, a specialist or a GP or whatever, they're all wearing masks and they all act like they're afraid that I'm going to give them some terrible disease. So, talk about medical hexing. And I'm sitting there chuckling because I'm going, wait a minute, Karen, why are you sitting here in this doctor's office looking for health advice when this guy doesn't even know that masks don't even work against contagions? He doesn't even know that basic information. What's the matter with me that I'm sitting here expecting him to give me some kind of advice? The other thing I want to say, this is not very nice, but I'm going to say it anyway, is in Canada, they want you in every year to get stuff stuck up your bum to see if your pipes are okay. They want to get all up in your vagina to see if it's okay. I don't need them all up in my body cavities to tell me I'm okay. I know I'm okay. And when I tell them, nope, I don't do that, they go, what? And they want me to go in and have my breast squished in a machine and x-rayed every year. And I'm going, the hell is the matter with these people? I am not going to do that. And again, this is not medical advice. This is just one stubborn old lady and her opinion. But I also wanted to talk about our pets and the shit they want to do to your pets. And they want to give them these stabbies every year. And they want to sell you this garbage food that's processed, highly processed. And like, people don't realize that your pets need to eat basically what they would eat in the wild, and they have immune systems. And now it doesn't mean that they won't catch stuff from time to time, but I get my cats their basic shots at that once. That's it. That's all they're getting. And I get all these notices from the vet clinic. You got to get your cat back in. Oh my God, he needs another rabies shot. God, it's the same thing as the human medical industry. It's a disease management system. And so I just want to to put it out there that it's actually not that like you could, if you're careful how you do it, it's not that expensive to feed your animals a diet that's biologically appropriate. They don't get kibble in the wild. They wouldn't be here as a species if they couldn't survive on God knows what that they're foraging out there. They never had kibble and they didn't die out. There's lots of cats and lots of dogs. So anyway, again, just getting all my opinions, but I wanted to throw that out there. So we got time for another go round, but I would like you to share with the audience anything else that you want to talk about or that you didn't get a chance to say. And then please also tell people what you offer, what the name of your podcasts are, when you go live, or if you do it regular, different times of the week, where people can find you. Again, the links will be in the description below, but let people know where they can find you. And there will be some listening to this on audio, and it's good for them to hear where to find you as well, because when they're out driving, they're not going to want to take a look at the description, I hope. So I'll just turn it back over to you, Frank.
Thank you so much. You can find me at Frankie Fearless on X and at Fearless Tribe on YouTube and at Sons of the Sun everywhere there's music. Okay, with that being said, we all want to help one another and we want to save. We have this thing where we want to save or help. We could show you the way. I could show you how to do it. And let me just, if you just follow the program, geez, just take a look at it. If they're not ready, they're not going to look. What you do is, just like when you're in an airplane and those little bags fall down and you got a kid with you, you put your mask on before you put the kid's mask on, because the kid's going to flail. He's going to kick. He's going to do all kinds of stuff. He might even grab for your mask. So you have to be secure in your ability to be strapped in, have your mask on, and then hold that kid down if need be and put the mask on, because they're going to go out kicking and flailing. So it's best to worry about yourself, to work with yourself, to deprogram yourself, to heal your trauma, to re-get to your birthright of being source energy, having a human experience. We're here and we're making history and we're in history, and it's something fantastical that's about to happen. So do yourself a favor. Be kind to yourself. But be real and be true to yourself. Don't lie. And stop dressing up truth with a suit and a tie and a this and a that. The truth is the truth, and it does hurt. But sometimes you need to shake that stuff free, just like when you're doing yoga and you're pulling and stretching. And when you do that, you decompress it, and it hurts so much. Oh, I cry when I do it, and I make so many noises. Nobody likes to work around me when I'm doing that. Oh, woe is me. And it's released. And now you have the ability to think a little clearer, feel a little better, 10% a week, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and you'll be going. You'll be off to the races. And like Stephen was saying, there's never been a better time than right now. This is the time, not tomorrow, right now. Okay, I love you guys very much. Thank you for having me. And remember, the universe rewards bravery.
Right on. Well, thank you all for joining us again on the panel discussion. Karen, thank you for hosting. This was amazing. I really enjoyed joining everybody each month to get together and share some insights. In closing, I'd say first that we're really not trying to shit on the medical industry as a whole, but there are large aspects that are fundamentally horrible, that do not work for humanity, that are all about making us return customers, like Steven said. So I think that we can take elements of our modern medical system, mainly emergency medicine. Emergency medicine is wonderful. It saves lives. If you get your arm chopped off, hey, they might be able to get your arm back on there. If you're in a car wreck, they could save your life. Heart attacks, things of this nature. Emergency medicine is wonderful. I'll keep it. But everything else basically can be thrown away when we're looking at our modern medical industry. But I think that are there are great things from different perspectives from all over the world, from different models, from different health care systems. But everybody has a piece of the puzzle when it comes to this. And I think perspective is huge. And I really think we need to start looking at the nature of disease as it relates to parasites and what they are doing. I think this is a huge area. This could be a whole other show that we could do just on parasites alone, not only the physical microscopic parasites, but etheric parasites and the global parasitic ruling class, micro, macro, as above, so below. So I think that's a huge aspect to pay attention to, and there are ways of getting rid of parasites. So there's always a way to heal ourselves. And thank you all again. You can find all of our podcast episodes on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. We're on Rockfin, we're on Rumble. I am no longer posting on YouTube because screw YouTube. And you can watch our first film, Forbidden Documentary, Occult Louisiana. It's available on Tubi. And we're finishing up the second film right now. We're going to start pre-release, pre-sales. If you want your pre-release copy, email me. That should be done by the end of the month, and you can start watching the film. And once again, thank you all, and love you guys. We'll see you again next time.
All right, guys. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things real quick. So I'm going to bring this up because yes, Chris, this could be a whole different episode, but Frank kind of alluded to it earlier. The victim mentality actually attracts parasites. So this is definitely something that, yes, maybe we can touch on this next month. And I just want to say this, guys, this is going to be the last thing. And of course, Karen, touching on what you said briefly, yes, take care of your animals, give them good food, give them probiotics, give them omega-3s. It's, what they used to eat out in the wild. Chris, cover Sally and Hazel's ears. I give my dogs this raw dehydrated beef food that they like a lot. And yes, it's not super expensive. It's very affordable. So definitely consider that. But nonetheless, guys, your healing is in your hands. Okay. You have to be honest with yourself, because at the same, we're our own biggest cheerleaders, but we are also the most hypercritical of ourselves as well. I guess the best thing I could say is find that medium and that balance. Don't lie to yourself, but don't throw yourself down and kick yourself to the curb either. That's going to be the number one thing. The best thing I would recommend for everybody is to get your physical health in check first. Everything will come after. You will notice this hue, this new glow about you once you start taking care of your body. And then that will manifest itself into more and more opportunities for you to partake in your healing, whether it's on a physical level or a spiritual level. When we heal ourselves, we help heal our collective too. That's the biggest thing. We are source. We are the divine. We are a divine focal point. All of the work that we do goes towards our collective and helps benefit our collective as well. So while you might think this is small, I'm just sitting here, this one little old human being healing myself. No, dude, what you're doing is major. What you're doing is facilitating more healing for our collective. You're facilitating, new ideas, new thought patterns, and I've been seeing this, manifest in our collective with people suddenly getting interested in meditation, yoga, homesteading, cooking their own sourdough bread. I mean, growing their own food. I mean, all of this is starting to kind of take place. And these are the fruits of our labor, guys. Like we're looking at them. Yes, it's not in the way that a lot of us would want to see it, but it's in what's needed. And you know how the divine is always about what we need, not what we want. And the other thing I would say is the universe is definitely going to hold you accountable, guys. And that's not a scary thing. That's a great thing because now you know you have yourself, your higher self, being like every time you look that direction towards that other path, it takes you, just slaps your head over the other way a little bit. And it's like, look, man, this is where you need to go. So, you know, the number one thing I'll say is your healing comes first when it comes to your spiritual evolution. You can worry about everything else after that. And that's kind of the way I wish I would have taken, but I've corrected myself and I took the right road and I've built myself back up. So, guys, remember, invest in yourself. It's the biggest thing you can do. And not only does it help you, it helps our entire collective. And that's something you should be proud of. But I am BG Cast, guys. You can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network with Chris down there on www.forbiddenknowledge.news. Check out his documentary. Check out Writer's documentaries. They're great. Definitely support them. Other than that, guys, you can find me on that website, forbiddenknowledge.news. You can find me on Rumble and YouTube under BGCast. I constantly try to get booted off YouTube. I understand Chris's sentiments. We said a few trigger words last stream, but for some reason they wouldn't kick me off. So I don't know. Maybe I'm flying under the radar for now. And you can find me on Rockfin, Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the audio platforms, and of course under all social media as BGCast on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I'm hardly on Instagram. They shadow banned me into the dungeon. So if you want to get a hold of me, Facebook or X is the best route. And other than that, it is always a pleasure to sit down with you fine ladies and gents. It is always great to hear the knowledge, the wisdom, and the remembrances that each of you have had and how it contributes and how we just thrive off of our energy and we always learn from each other and we always walk away from this knowing more and feeling more about ourselves and this temporary human ride that we're on. And Karen, of course, thank you for hosting. Super appreciate it. I can't wait to have you on here shortly. Frank will be coming on too. And then we got Chris coming on again when the documentary drops. So thanks again, guys.
Ooh, and thank you, all of you. As most of you know, this is the Quantum Guide Show. It airs every Wednesday afternoon at noon Pacific, 1 o'clock Mountain, or 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And my second podcast is called Aliens and Angels, and it airs every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, noon Mountain, or 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoons Eastern. And besides that, I'm probably, when I publish this, going to throw in a little promotion for my book. If you haven't done so already, you might want to read my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors. And it's based on my real life transdimensional experiences. And I guess that's it, except I'm just wondering if, Chris, do you want to say something about Jennifer and her offerings and where people can find her before we go?
Sure, yes. Jennifer is a master Reiki teacher healer. She offers plenty of healing modalities, coaching, health coaching. You can reach her at jenniferhalcame@gmail.com. Or if you email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com, I can also get you in touch with her.
Wonderful. So I'm wishing all of you guys a really super good week, and to all the audience, to the listeners, the viewers, whether you are watching a replay or on audio, we love you so much. Everybody take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.